I think we are live.
We're live.
Hey, everybody. Sorry about that. We had some, again, technical glitches, but before we get into this, we're going to share a little something for everybody to know who we have on the show today. Just watch this screen and we'll start after this.
Elevate Me is brought to you by Scotiabank, the Spring Mill Distillery, and Wellington Motors.
Damon.
Mr. Damon Allen.
That's a nice little intro there.
I don't know if it does justice. It was just put together very quickly just to do a quick intro to you, but thanks so much for being here with us. We really appreciate it, even though we had some glitches.
Thanks for having me in this lovely afternoon.
Well, I'm assuming we all kind of are at home. So I want to know, how are you kind of managing this new landscape?
You know, I think deep down, I'm a natural homebody. So I think the first week when this started, I didn't have a plan or anything. So I just stayed home and I found myself like eating all day long. And so I think the first week, I put some weight on. And so after that, I had to come with a plan after that. I was like, okay, these next 2 weeks and I'm going on further, I'm going to put a little plan together. And I always say this to mind, body, and spirit. I always say mind, body, and spirit. And so I actually decided to put that to work. And I started to look at each one as a category and says, this is what I'm going to put work into all three of these to make my day interesting. It keeps me in a direction. And so that's what I started doing. And so I started implementing, mind, body, and spirit. And I start to work on those aspects. And so when I talk about the mind aspect, I'm always, learning something, reading a variety of different things that I can learn and to be taught. And then when I look at the body aspect, exercise, eating the right foods, and that's something every day is different. And then spiritually, right? I know the body is made up of blood, water, and spirit. And so I have to work on the spiritual side. So I read a lot, I pray, I fast, and all those things within, every day that we have the opportunity. So I'm on the spirit side. I'm praying for my relatives, my mom, my dad. They're covering my friends, and really take use of that. And so I don't just waste, 24 hours in a day, or I just don't eat all day long.
What are you reading?
My foundation is scripture. So I do read the Bible. And then from there, I would probably use outside resources to, confirm what scriptures are saying. And it gives me just a future view of the world and where it is. Like they say in the Bible, it talks about prophecies. It gives me a greater understanding within the prophecies and what scripture's saying and what I'm seeing now. It gives me a greater understanding, but at the same time, I think it actually not allows myself to worry as well.
And in terms of the body, what are your workouts looking like? Are you have you been staying steadfast and strong on the workouts? Is the weight coming on?
I still use a lot of people and encouragement and inspiration through videos, but I do a lot of plyos. So I can do a lot of just natural body weight. I do take walks in the day. If it's a really nice day and sunny, I go outside, get the vitamin D. I may walk 4.5 kilometers. I do practice social distancing. So in the midst of all that, I just do my walk and come right back home. May do some exercises in my room, like it says plyos, from sit-ups to natural squats, lunges. I got barbells here. And so every day I try to do something different. And then at the same time, when I'm in my body mode, and then I'm always, looking on the resources, what I can do differently or I can add to. And so every day is always nice. But I think overall, when I keep that direction in those three categories, it keeps me balanced every day.
And how are you with the kids home full time with you as well?
Well, my kids are a lot older, but they all live in California. And so I'm the only one here in Canada. And so, that's part of the spiritual side when I'm always constantly praying for them. But, that's why we have Skype and FaceTime and all those things. I can speak with them, but they are all healthy. They're all safe. So we're very thankful for all that. And I do the same thing with my brothers. I mean, so now you're becoming more creative and you're getting down to, I guess you're learning how to use all the functions that the phones and the FaceTime gives you to your advantage now. Like I have a text group with my brothers. And so we're always constantly speaking and talking to one another. And at the same time, I just realized that you can multiple FaceTime. So we're FaceTiming. We FaceTimed the other day, and we encouraging our other brother, my oldest brother, Harold, to get an iPhone because he doesn't have an iPhone, so he can't be involved in the conversation.
And how many brothers do you have in total, or siblings?
Including me, there's 5 boys and 1 girl.
Oh, wow. And now I have to ask this question because for those who don't know, for anyone who's been living on the moon, your other brother, the one that we know, Marcus Allen, great NFL legend, and you're a great, I'm not even going to call you a CFL legend. You're a football legend because your numbers, your stats, I really feel like the NFL got robbed of a really great player. Does that run in the blood? Is that in the family? Is everyone else as sports endowed as you?
No, absolutely. When it comes to what people don't know, we're actually a baseball family. Like Marcus was really good in baseball. He chose to concentrate on football, but me growing up at 7 years old, my goals were to have the opportunity to be drafted in baseball and football. And so I set out to actually do that ever since I was a kid. So I played baseball, football, all the way up to high school, college, into the professional ranks. And so when I came out of university, I was drafted by Detroit Tigers. And at the same time, I was, didn't get the opportunity to go to the National Football League, but the CFL was calling. And from there, the thing I wanted most was that choice where I wanted to go. And so I chose football.
That's great. And now you're growing up with your brother. I mean, obviously he played football, you play football, and he's a little bit older than you, right, Damon?
Yeah, he's 3 years older than me, Marcus. So I'm the middle child from my oldest brother, Harold. He's 4 years, Marcus 3. We have a set of twins, Michael and Michelle. They're 2 years younger than me. And then we have this brother that's like 13 years apart from my twins.
Was there a quarantine then too? Like a year before?
Yeah, and he pretty much grew up by himself, but it's pretty neat. When my brother Marcus was running for the Heisman at USC, Darius was only 3 years old.
That's insane. So like watching your brother, a few years ahead of you, he gets into high school before you, he gets into USC before you, NCAA before you. Did that something that drive you? Like, was there competition between the two of you? Was he, your big brother that you were looking up to? How was that?
There's always competition among brothers. We're very competitive, even though he's much older, and it always seems like my brother, like he's the same size he was when he was in high school. And so he was a dominant player in high school. He was a big player. I mean, he was probably in high school 6'1", about 180 something pounds. It didn't seem like he was that much different when he went to the pros. But yes, absolutely. There's a level of competition. And now, from baseball to football, from playing tackle football in the mud, because we used to sit at our father's probably more competitive than us, but we used to sit on Sundays and watch football. And then we would always emulate what we seen on TV. And so if we saw a game that was played in the mud, we would go on our field, in our backyard, water the field down, put on our football gear, and then we go play tackle in the mud. So we always wanted to emulate our heroes. And so that was one of the ways that we are inspired to to play the sport. And it was no different than if we just seen the All-Star game, man. We would go through it, man. We put our uniforms on, chalk the field, go through introductions, and play aluminum can baseball. And so that's how we were inspired. But at the end of the day, we're very competitive because now we all play golf.
Wow. So who was the, who taught you growing up, and where did the genetics come from? Obviously you guys have some amazing athletic genes.
Well, the genetics always come from the Most High above that gives you the ability. For us, my father always taught that if we decide we wanted to do something, we can't quit. And so I think, how that all came about, because I think my father did play baseball when he was young. And so often when your father tell you your stories and, you never seen him play, but the way we were taught fundamentally how to play every sport that we played, it was highly important to understand the foundation of how the game is played. And then you actually bring your own style and your own characteristics to the sport. But fundamentally, you have to know the fundamentals of how to play the game. And then from there, you just bring your own style, how you want to play.
Did you have somebody you looked up to? Like, was there somebody yeah?
Absolutely. I mean, we had people we looked up to. There's a quick story that my father was in construction, and he has all four of his license, electrician, plumber, he has it all. And he used to take us to work, all the brothers and his sons, to work. And he used to work us to death. And so we understood about like what hard work is, right? Playing out there in the hot sun, you're carrying lumber, wood, and he would like barely feed us. But everything to my father was a life lesson. He'd say, "Is this what you want to do in life?" And we like, hell no, we don't want to do this. So we all went to sport and dedicated ourselves to sport. And so that was, his way of pushing us to the passions that we desire to have. But we also understood it takes hard work and dedication and believing and that you can do it and those things. And so, that's the one thing I can always say, that my parents always, kept our tanks full, with words and affirmation and all those things to say, yeah, you can do it. You can do it. Just put your mind to it and do it.
And it's funny, it brings an important part. I always wonder whether or not it is, nature or nurture, whether you're born with the right genetics and gifts and talents, or if it's just that people who put their minds to something and don't quit and end up being what they end up becoming. Were you always great at sports? Because obviously you guys played on at each level, right? From high school to university to then the pros. You were always kind of amongst the top. You were winners. Was that always the case, or did you have to kind of get there?
Well, it's always different for individuals. For me, going up, even though I was skillful, and that has a lot to do with back in the day when I was playing, we played outside. So you were able to develop your skills playing in the street and a variety of different sports, whether it's basketball, baseball, or football. We learned, physically going out on the field and playing, with your neighbors and your whole community, right? And so from there, we were physically active, working and doing things. So that was a different era in which we were brought up. But at the same time, we had passions on those things. My father, we were like Sunday mornings, man, we wanted to watch football. My father, man, we would hide our church shoes. We would do everything not to go to church. But our father was right there with us, man. So so it made it pretty cool that as a family, when we started the desire to want to play football or baseball, my father got involved instantly, whether he'd be the coach. So he's involved, right? And so our involvement with our parents, my mom's a teen mother, so it's a whole family affair, right? So growing up, when I come to Canada and realize that, man, okay, Canadians, they go to the Muskokas, they have cottages. It's a whole different kind of family get-together bond that the Canadians do. But back in the Allen's household, like sports, and it was a whole family get together there. So our Saturdays were spent on We go to the football diamond, and Marcus and Harold on the same team. I'm on a different team. Michael's on a different team. So we're at the football field all day from 8 o'clock till everybody's game is over. And so that's how we really got the passion and develop our skill set and those things. And in the midst of us playing our game, or my brother just finished playing, we still playing in the park with the rest of the guys, still putting in work even before you play at 4 o'clock. And so I think that's where the passion and the development came from. And then, the skill set that you can go out there and play and perform and those things, because we had the support of like my whole family.
What a great way to connect family too. Like that sounds so enriching for a young life.
No, it's very important. Like I said, that impact, that support system, because that's where you understand. My father always said that's where you develop teamwork, is through your family. That's your first team, is your family. That family dynamic and structure. And so how that team functions, prepare you if you want to get into a sport or any kind of team sport, because we're all part of some kind of team, whether you work in the corporate Canada or you are on a professional team or you're on an amateur team. That's the first aspect of learning what a team and how it should operate, is your family structure. And so from there, and that's why I can go to any setting, understand the team dynamic and structure and fit in. And I was able to do that as an amateur, as a university student, and also a professional, because I understood I had a really good supporting dynamic team structure to allow me to thrive in a team ordinator sport too.
So, growing up in a baseball predominant family, your father played baseball, your brother was really good at baseball. What was it about football that made you go, you know what? No, I've got both options. I'm going the football route.
For me, it's always been about, because people get asked this question all the time, why did you go baseball? Because there's so much money, right? At that time, I wasn't thinking about money. I was only thinking about participating. And so if you understand the dynamic, when I was playing baseball, I was a middle reliever spot starter. So there are some games that you play a 3-game series, you may not even pitch. And so participation was always, okay, I'm the starting quarterback at the Cal State Fullerton Titans. I'm playing every single game. In baseball, I'm a middle reliever spot starter. And I go a 3-game series and I become an expert of spitting seeds on someone's shoes sitting in the dugout because you haven't got your opportunity to pitch because you're a middle reliever. And so that's always based on what the starter does, right? And we had a very good baseball team at Cal State Fullerton. We won a national championship. We were 66-20 in that senior year. We won the College World Series, and so we had a pretty good pitching staff. But there were times, right, that I got a chance to pitch, and there were times that, man, I'm a cheerleader. So football was like for me. I mean, I want to whatever. I don't care if I'm an amateur. I want to participate in the function of whatever sport that we're participating in, right? We all want to be that. We don't want to be the last guy picked on the basketball court, and we want to be one of the first guys picked.
So growing up, I mean, obviously, you're all very athletic and very talented. Was there a point where there was an awareness by you and your family that, wow, this is actually like, there's some serious talent here that has potential to make it? Like, where does that ever, is that something that consciously goes through your mind or your family's mind? Was there ever like a sit down and, hey, you guys, this is like, we're going places with this?
No, see, I was born in the 60s, so I don't think we really had that kind of mindset the way these kids have the mindset now because of the resources. When I mean resources, just the resources, the ability to go out there and pursue something. For me, what helped my family, because my father always gave us history. So we're in a sense, we're history buffs. We dive into history and we use history to encourage us of where we are today. And so, and where we want to leave in the future. So we talk about, history, present time, future, that's also what I use, right? I use history to prepare me for where I am today. And then I have to think about what kind of legacy I want to leave for the next generation. That also keeps me in a direction that makes me work towards something, right? And so when I started to play, I was using the stories of Jackie Robinson or Fitz, the first football player that had the opportunity to play football. I was using those things to encourage me in my own sport and where I sit today. And so history has always been very important to our family. And that's why we can get in any football, baseball, any sport conversation. And we know there's a little bit of history of any player that played there that was a great player.
Speaking of history, you did an NFL combine, is that right?
I did, and I showed very well. But the one thing that stopped me, I was probably about 150 pounds.
So then, I would say, back then there were no, Michael Vicks, there were no Russells, there were no quarterbacks like you. Well, there were no real black quarterbacks, really. There weren't that many. And so I always say that the NFL got robbed of a really, really good player. And, you came to Canada and you came, and I mean, we got lucky and we got you, and you were doing your thing while your brother was doing his thing in the NFL, where, this almost around the exact same time. So he's at the Raiders, you're
right
here. How was that? Were you trying to, beat him? Are you, how was that dynamic?
Well, at that time, we played two different positions. And, what makes my brother's story so unique, my brother didn't play running back until he went to university. He switched his position to running back. And then his goal was to win the Heisman. So, I mean, that's pretty very difficult to do, to be able to say I'm playing quarterback and defense. And he went to USC as a defensive back. And so when he went to SC, the potential of saying to John Robinson that, hey, it's difficult to win the Heisman as a free safety, I'm going to switch my position, is unheard of. But eventually he became, NFL great due to the fact that he played multiple positions, and he became a really good athlete behind the tailback position. He was a quarterback, he was a defensive player, he played fullback, he blocked for Charles Wright. So there's multiple positions. And then at the same time, my father taught us about, being part of a team and trying to help the team win. And so it makes you want to try a lot of different things where the coach say, hey, Damon, or hey, we want to try you at this position, and your first thought is like, I don't want to play that position, but you're willing to do it for the team. And so I think those things helped my brother play the position tailback at its fullest. And so I think in that situation, there's always a level of competition, because even today we talk about high school, and he won, one championship in high school, and I won two, right? So I can always say that. But he can always say I won the Heisman. I haven't won Heisman.
It's funny.
So there's multiple things I can say. I won 4 Grey Cups, and you won 1 Super Bowl.
I look at the numbers.
Yeah.
I look at the numbers, and you say that, he played a different position, but it's almost like you should have played that position, because I mean, you're in the 1% of all-time rushing yards in the CFL. And when I looked at the stats again, Wikipedia is never 100% accurate, but it looked like you're like 300 and some odd yards difference between you and your pro brother. Does that, do you ever wish you had one more season to top him on those rushing yards?
No, not really, because because at that time, I want to be known as as complete a quarterback that there is. So if there's a definition of a CFL quarterback, my name will go on that definition, because the players who can run and throw in our league are very dynamic and very difficult to deal with and handle. And so I think in that situation, yes, what's so funny about that, because everyone always, the first 10 years, oh yeah, he's a running quarterback. And then when I broke the CFL record, it was like, oh, excuse me, I didn't know he can throw the football like that. But those are the things that you're proud of, because, and even now when they talk about, oh yeah, he's the second all-time leading passer now behind Anthony Cavill, but they never talk about your rushing stats or the other part of you. And so that makes you, they always try to make me a one-dimensional kind of player. And I was very well a two-dimensional player, right? You know, I had close to 12,000 yards rushing and 100 touchdowns rushing, you know, in the CFL. So in that sense, you know, I always looked at myself in that ability to run and throw and to know that if I don't use that skill set, then, you know, I'm not the complete Damon Allen that I need to be when I step on the field.
I remember when we interviewed Pinball and Chris for your video.
Yes.
And the one thing I think they both said was if there was a minute on the clock and you were winning and you were there, that you could change the game that quickly. And I feel like a lot of this, when we talked and we interviewed you for your video, I remember you talked a lot about believing and just the confidence part of it. Where did that come from? Because I feel like in that place as an athlete and having, you know, played sport at a high level, I feel like that confidence part is such a huge, huge part of being a successful athlete. Where did you develop that?
I think having success and, you know, when you look back over your history, right? When I started playing football, I realized that, you know, from Pop Warner to high school to university to the professional ranks, I have won a championship, and not just one, but multiple. I won two championships in college. I won 4 as a professional. I won multiple championships playing the position quarterback at Pop Warner level. I won 2 CIF championships in high school. And so I think that kind of reservoir of experience. And then at the same time, I dreamed about those things ever since I was a kid. I dreamed about playing in the big game and making the big throw or the big catch or making the difference in that ball game. And so whenever I got into those kind of situations and like I always say, the bigger the stage, the better you play. I mean, I always believed in those things because I prepared my mind, I visualized it, I believed in my skill set and what I can do on the football field. But at the same time, I envisioned these things. And then so when I got in those situations or the Grey Cup, knowing that, hey, it's 7 million people will watch the game from the first quarter to the end. There's 15 million people in Canada will watch the Grey Cup sparingly. Those are the things that they remember. They don't remember who lost. They remember who won. And so I think in those situations, that's where it all comes down to. This is the stage, and then I'm at my most comfortable because it feels like deja vu. I've been here before. And then that's what allows me to perform and be calm in the midst of it's a storm. Like I said, it's 15 million people watching in Canada Grey Cup. And when the game is on the line, man, it's like, hey, I'm cool and calm like Cool Hand Luke.
Is there a moment that stands out for you? I mean, when you look at it's such a long career, are you like, yeah, this is the moment that I remember so clearly?
Oh, I give you an example. In 1987, we won our first Grey Cup with the Edmonton Eskimos. We played against Toronto. I had a dream the night before the game that I was going to play in the game. And when I played in the game, I actually saw myself actually doing well. But that's only due to the fact, because like I said, I visualize it's the biggest game. We lost in 1986 to the Hamilton Tiger Cats, even though we were 14 points favorite. Then we get in 1987 with the Eskimos. I dream about this game that I'm going to play. But that was also due to the experience that I started against Toronto in that late October prior to the playoffs. And we beat them in Commonwealth. So that experience, believing I'm going to play, and then the opportunity presents itself. All I had to do is go out there and perform now. Not worry, perform. We're down 21-7. I come in the game and we come back and we win the Grey Cup. And I end up being the Grey Cup MVP playing a half of football pretty much.
And now of those, I mean, that's number one, and you've got four, right?
It's right.
Which is your favorite? Is that your most memorable?
They all have their unique story, and they're very important to me in my story, because it's a thing. It's not necessarily the game, but it's the experience that whole year that you understood how your team got to that point. Because from the challenges that you may see, players in and out, leaving, but eventually you come together as a football team and then you win a Grey Cup. So you remember all those little stories, and that's why it's always unique. And that's why it's always important. But my most memorable one had to be my last one, Toronto versus BC, because that was the team I was with before I came to Toronto. And then the story behind that, the motivation behind all that to go out there and perform well and play well and all those things, it was all there. You couldn't write that story. When we were in Toronto, we beat Montreal in the Eastern Final. A reporter asked me, like, who are you going to play? I said, we're going to play the BC Lions. That was before their game that even started. We're going to play the BC Lions. You cannot write this story. I'm going to face my old team. So the scenario was there. And so for me to play well is the fact that it was my first time my brother, Marcus, was at that game, seeing me live play in his first Grey Cup game. So come on, man. Your brother there, Hall of Famer, all the elements are there for me to go out there. Okay, I got to show out.
Did that fire you up
Right?
a little bit?
Hey, and that's one thing about me. I use everything to motivate me. I use everything, from the saying I can't do it to the challenge I put on myself and the expectations I have for myself. I look at situations, like I said, I was 16 million people going to be watching, 8 million going to be watching, like from start to finish, and this is the stage. This is the stage I dream about. This is the stage that I want to perform in, and you can't do it alone. So I also have the appreciation of my teammates and everything else. And so I always come with the right attitude, the altitude, the right mindset to be able to go out there and perform. And so I'm not surprised that it all falls in place, because not only I'm believe in my skills, but I'm FBI, as I say, football intelligence, to be out there and go out there and perform.
Now, the average age, the average career in professional football, my body is still banged up, and I didn't even play in professional levels. I've literally had surgeries recently, and I haven't played a professional ball. What did you do to prepare yourself? How did you get your body and your mind, especially, sharp to have such a long career?
I think it has nothing to do with what I did or the things that I prepare for, because it takes more than that. I think sometimes people are ordained to do what they're doing, and people are sit in a place to not only, hey, this is where you're supposed to be, and I think even when I trained and I studied, and the amount of work I put into preparing to play every game. And the ability to play a very physical game, to be able to leave a game, to be elusive. I mean, because of my size and weight, I had to play like that. I had to play like a very elusive type of game. Because remember I told you in university, I was 150 pounds in the combine, and the first thing they said was, man, this guy's going to get hurt. They said the same thing the first day I came to Edmonton, and I signed in at the big press conference. They saw me and said, this guy's not going to last. And then 23 years later, I was still playing in the game. And so I knew when I played the game of football, even though, like I said, you play with toughness and you play all those things, but I knew that my size my first year in the CFL was 160 pounds. So I had to be like slippery as an eel, like you out there trying to tackle a chicken. I mean, that's how I had to be, that kind of elusiveness that I had to play with to perform. And so I think it's a combination of all that, right? In football intelligence and play the game with skill and hard work. And then like saying, and, you know, the blessings of the Most High God to be able to keep you healthy for 23 seasons. Because I didn't just drop back and pass. I was running the football.
What were some challenges? What were some challenges you had, and how did you overcome those?
My biggest challenge is funny. We're saying all these things, but my biggest challenge was my size. I had an issue with my size. When I played Pop Warner and I had all this success, right? When I got to high school, my 10th grade year, I didn't play football at all because I seen those guys and I said, man, they're big. And so I did not play. But the funny thing is the passion was still there. So every day I would actually sit on the grass and watch them practice until it was a JV coach, because there's JV and varsity in high school. And so the JV coach came over to me and said, man, I see you here every single day watching them practice, watching the games. Hey, we have 5 games left in our JV team. Our quarterback got hurt. Why don't you come out and play the last 5 games? So he convinced me to come out and play the last 5 games. I threw 20 touchdowns in those 5 games. And then the next year I was a starting quarterback varsity, and we go 12-0. We lose 2 games in 2 years. And then all of a sudden now I got a scholarship to go to university. So in that sense, my issue has always been my size. And that's why I encourage kids today. I said, man, the one thing that can stop a kid from playing anything is his self-doubt. When self-doubt creeps in, man, you're pretty much done. It'll stop you from doing the very thing that you love the most. And so that's one of the things I always preach. Don't allow self-doubt to actually creep in, because when it does, it will stop you from doing the thing that you love the most.
How do you tackle that when it comes in? How do you tackle that self-doubt?
How do I tackle that? And I think, first of all, you have to, face your fears. And so I think one of the things you have to be able to tackle, you have to face your fears. And then you have to put yourself out there and actually go out there. So I was always, okay once I was on the field, because I knew once I was on the field, I knew what I could do. So for me is when I got myself back into football, that was the very thing that helped me with my self-doubt and saying that my size will be an issue. Because, man, just imagine that. If I didn't play football, that coach didn't come over and encourage me that day, I don't think I would be playing football. And now I had another sport that I said that I had as our baseball. And so I would have just been focused on baseball. And I would probably obviously had the opportunity to play professional baseball too. But yeah, that's how you tackle your doubts, is you have to jump into the very things that you're afraid of. That's the first step.
So in your 20 plus years of playing ball in Canada, you played for a number of teams. You obviously never left Canada, so we've done something right.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've done something right. Was there a favorite era or a favorite team that you played for?
No favorite team, because I for me is, I don't X a team out or focus on one team. I realized that in my 23 career, I had to play on multiple teams. I'm not as fortunate as a Pinball Clemens or a Louis Pasaglia that plays 25 years at BC, or, all of his career here in Toronto, like Pinball. But then it's the way I look at myself. I'm a national athlete, global. I played on multiple cities. I played in BC. I played in Ottawa, the nation's capital. I played in Toronto. I played in Edmonton. And so I think I piece them up, and they all are part of this puzzle, and they're important puzzles. Edmonton was the team. When I think of Edmonton, it was the team that gave me my foundation, that built a strong foundation to allow me to. Now, if I go to another team, I'm actually in good shape, mentally, physically. I came from a really good organization. And so from there is how what I've learned from Edmonton, the foundation, and how do I bring to every other team that I played for. From there, my goal was to every team I went to, I wanted to win a Grey Cup. I was a little short, but damn, it's not bad.
What is something about your career, about your first year career that people might not know that you'd want them to know, and maybe something about you personally that people might not know?
It's really hard. Something they may not know. Maybe people believe that I'm this guy all over the place, but I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert. I love being at home. I love my quiet time. I like being alone because it gives me an opportunity to foresee the future. It gives me a chance to reevaluate the things that I'm doing. It allows me to make adjustments in my quiet time and those things. So I think that's the one thing that that people may not know, that I am a true introvert, even though I like joking around and having fun and those things. But deep down, I like this quarantine thing is like, it's really easy for me.
I love it. I'm the same.
Do you still visualize? Do you still now, I know we equate visualization with sport so much, but what is it? Is it something you bring into your life now?
No, everything I learned from the game of football, I bring into everything that I do, right? The passion that you need, energy, and, all those different things that you learn and understand teamwork. I mean, because I know in this day and age, we can't accomplish nothing by ourselves. So that, let's just put that, let's put that at the top of this conversation. What I've been able to accomplish is because of the people I had around me. I had great people around me that had guided me, have directed me, have important knowledge into me. For me, I was just smart enough to take it all in and then use it to my own arsenal, which allowed me to have the confidence I have to go out there and believe that I can win. And I'm willing to work hard, willing to be the first one there and the last one to leave. That was my kind of dedication. It's pretty funny. Like we talk about Kobe Bryant of the passing, and rest in peace, Kobe. But Kobe has made the Mamba mentality. Everybody's had it. He put a name to it. And so now when we think of the Mamba mentality, we think of Kobe Bryant like no one else was doing that. Man, the amount of work and the information that goes in and preparing to play and what you're willing to do to make it at the highest level and perform at the highest level, we all had it. All the athletes that are great and what they've been able to do had the Mamba mentality. And so Kobe made it cool because he put a name to it, Mamba.
Who are some athletes you looked up to? Who did you love playing with, and who did you hate playing against?
Ooh. History will always be like the number one aspect of, the motivation. And then when I was playing in the air, I love competing with Flutie, because, when I looked at Flutie, it was almost looking at somewhat of a mirror image of the skill set, the ability to throw and run, the ability to make things happen on the field. And so, I always felt he always brought out the best in me, because I knew that if I didn't come with my best, man, Flutie was coming, and Flutie was a great player. And so I've always liked competing against him when I was in Edmonton, especially, and he was in Calgary. The battle of the Alberta, that was a Labor Day Classic and all those things. It was really special. And so, but defensively, I didn't want to get hit by Alondra Johnson. James West was pretty good playing against those tough bombers, but those like I said, competing with great players also bring the best in you, right? And so, you're thankful for those players that you played against, and all the players, man. You make it to that level. I mean, everyone's skillful.
Have your kids been able to absorb all of this this wisdom and talent and work ethic? Are they sports phenoms as well?
Yes, like my son is a natural athlete, and so for me, is like I'm gonna do what my father had taught me about. Like I leave a lot of responsibility on him and what he wants to do in life. I'm just gonna really like, hey, you can't quit. Once you decide what you want to do in life and those things, no quitting. You work at it, you put the work in it, and then it's going to take hard work. Nothing's going to be given to you. And so I impart that in all my children. And they know that because they have been around football their whole lives. Like, we didn't leave them at home with babysitters when we had games. They were infants. They all went to the Grey Cups, and so I think for that is just that environment alone. That's why they all like sports. But at the same time, like saying, I depart history. I give them history, all those different things, an amount of understanding to where they can stand, no matter where they are in life and stand, and where they have to look back at history or where they are presently and think about the future and where they want to be in the future. You need to impart all those kind of things, and knowing that that you're covered by the grace of the Most High God, and all those things play a part in bringing up a child, because spiritually, the Bible says, train up a child the way it should go, and when it was old, it'll never depart. So my job is to spiritually impart, knowing that our children know that there is a creator of the universe, and you got to give them that respect too.
Do you have a favorite scripture?
Oh, I have a lot of scriptures.
Yeah.
But my favorite that I use today, due to the fact that there's many different religions, and especially I always look at Christianity, and I always look at the Bible, right? And I believe that Christianity has its own doctrine of who Christ is according to Christianity, but the Bible has its own doctrine of who Christ is. And so my favorite verse is John 7:38. It says, "He that believeth in me, as the scriptures say, out of his belly will flow rivers of living water." And so I choose to believe what the Bible says about Christ, and not the religion of Christianity. And so that will allow me to separate the two, because they're not two truths. There's one is speaking truth, and someone's not is bringing a false description of Christ.
Now, what are you what are you up to today? The post quote unquote post football era. I know you're still very much connected to football. What are you up to these days?
I'm a coach. I'm an amateur coach. I give back to charities. I host 3 golf tournaments that give back to charity, because one of the things I do enjoy is the sport of golf, due to the fact because I think my whole life has always been involved in team concept and team sport, and golf is the only sport for me that feels like an individual sport, and it's me against the course or me against the individual foursome that's playing. And so you're competing, right? And so it's always going to be, I don't care if we play marbles, I'm trying to win, bro.
I'm with you.
So that's the level of competition that I bring no matter what we're playing. But so that's why golf is so fascinating to me, due to the fact that I think, in a sense, and we can say golf is a team sport, because now when you look at individual golfers, man, they have everything from masseuse, trainers, sports therapists, all this stuff. So they have a team that they actually work with to prepare them to go out there and perform. But golf still is an individual sport. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I tend to go in that level, because of my whole life has been team concept.
You talked about history a lot, and I mean, I love history, so I'm a student of history.
Yes.
Who is your favorite historical character? What is your favorite historical story?
Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson. I would say Jackie Robinson, but then I just watched a documentary on Fitz Pollard.
So that tell us about that one.
Fitz Pollard is the first African American to play football, and also became the first head coach in NFL to play football. And he was a running back, but his story is legendary because now we're talking about in the 1920s, and it was much different than it was in the 1950s, in the time when Jackie Robinson. So Fitz Pollard was going through the very same thing that Jackie Robinson was going through, and to be able to go through that in his story and to do it with a sense of grace and elegance and believing and commitment and all those things, it makes what I went through like a walk in the park. Because if you understand what they went through, it should encourage you to know that, okay, my platform, they like, we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? So we know that they put in the work where, man, I don't know what individual athletes would do if they couldn't, dress with their team, or they have to go through the back of the stadium and not go through the front of the stadium, and, dealing with death threats and all those different things. Or you come up to the plate like Jackie Robinson, and you're coming up to the plate, you already have 2 strikes on you. Like, I mean, that's not even fair in baseball, isn't it? That's not even fair. To go up to the plate, you already have 2 strikes. And so for him to perform at that level, and to know that if Jackie can go through it, then definitely I can go through it all too.
I love that.
You talked a little bit about legacy earlier on. So what would that legacy look like for you? What would you want that to be? What would you want people to know?
I think part of my legacy will be the longevity, the energy that it takes, the believe in yourself. Size doesn't matter. Family, and to be able to do it all with grace, style, and be humble about it, to me has always been the key, because that's what was taught to me. Like, for me to be a quarterback, I used to look at Joe Montana, all these quarterbacks that are really cool, that were always cool. They always say quarterbacks got to be cool under pressure, and so I take to all those things, and that's the kind of quarterback you had to be. And so I take in that information, but I never stopped learning. Even in my 23rd year, I never stopped learning. So I always felt like you can always learn, you can always evolve. Learning never stops. And so for me, it's, even today, being away from the game or out of the game 11 years, I can still look at the game. I felt now, and I look at the sport of football now, the CFL, I become more detailed in my teaching and all of those different things. And so I don't think you ever lose the passion and the energy that you bring. Like, I'm 56 years old, man. But when I'm out there, I still feel like I'm a kid in the sandbox. That when it's time to go, you're going to leave here kicking and screaming. That's the way I played.
That's amazing. Do you think the CFL will ever see a Coach Damon?
Yeah, I think in the future, because I think deep down there's always been an element in me that's a desire that I have. And like I said, once I put my mind to it, man, like I said, the dedication to being a good coach and the communication, and I feel that I understand the game, even in its nuances and the rule changes. It's still the game of football is still being played the same way. You got to throw, catch, run, tackle, all those fundamental aspects of playing really good football. But now it's just a matter of the strategy and chess game, and how do you continue to evolve and push the boundaries of creativity, right? That's why, if I come to the game, that's where I'm going to push the creativity of the game, because, hey, I may draw a play and you draw up a play a little bit more simple, the ability to recognize it. Me, I may draw up the same play, may still have the dots in place, the triangle reads, dot, 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 right? When you're always trying to design an offensive play, you always try to look at the triangles, right? So I can draw up a crazy route tree play, but the triangle read will still be the same. And so for me, it's the creativity and how you get to those same points that you have to, the game, especially offensively, has to do.
You also work with companies and executives, and do you take
Yeah.
your teachings as an athlete and kind of morph them for corporate Canada or corporate America?
Yes, I come to know that, you know, even in the game of football, a team concept, team sport, man, fits right in the same topic as a company and how it should function, right? I mean, there's the positions, right, from manager to employees and a variety of different things. So, I mean, you know, we can intertwine the names and put, you know, the head coach, the quarterback's the manager, and then you have your offensive coordinators and all these things that the employees have to deal with. And so, you know, when you're a quarterback, I'm a manager in a corporate Canada setting. I may have to manage over 11 or 15 or 20, or the numbers may be much bigger. But as a quarterback, I have to manage over 11. And so the concepts and how you intertwine the different titles is no different. And so in the speaking circuit, I speak along those lines, you know, leadership and teamwork. And so I can speak corporately on how it should function, how the good teams function in the midst of a football game. And so I did a presentation on the six aspects of the game a quarterback must manage, from the quarterback to the boardroom. And that's the huddle, turnovers, the 2-minute warning, the scoring area, field positioning. And so all those different things that a quarterback must manage in the game to win is no different than the corporate world has to manage too, right?
You've got a new series on your Instagram page. So
yes.
It's the whole 9 yards. Is that it?
Yes, the whole 9 yards with Damon Allen. Yes, you know, I try to speak to guests, and I want to give I want them to give me the whole 9 yards on their career and those things. And so the fact that I love the word the whole 9 yards, because everyone's seen it throughout, right? It's a popular saying, the whole 9 yards. That means, hey, give me everything. But the fact that it had the number 9, it made it even sweeter too, right? Because I think my first book, when I finished with my brother, it's called The Whole 9 Yards.
Right. So is that coming out soon?
Hopefully, if I can finish it, and you know, I got so much on the go, I got to stay focused, and hopefully it can be done pretty soon.
Beautiful.
Well, we lost your video, Damon, but that's okay. We see your we see your name.
I'm still on.
Well, I will say that if when the games go on, Damon, we want to invite you to come, and maybe when we include football in the over 30 games, there'll be a over 40 and over 50 that maybe we can have you join us in.
Well, maybe you can have a 7-on-7 series like they do now, in a level of competition without the whole line play, but it's 7-on-7, and it's a pretty good sport that's very popular in the States. It's very popular here. It's another way for high school kids to develop, and so I think that component can happen. There's a lot of leagues right now that play that type of 7-on-7.
Yeah, it's definitely.
So you can probably incorporate that into the games.
Yeah, definitely. I know in future years we're looking at expanding to different sports, and football is definitely one sport we've talked about. So
absolutely, one of my favorites.
That was awesome.
Oh, thanks a lot. I mean, I hope I gave you enough information. I got lots.
You got tons, and honestly, it was so enriching. I'm watching people's comments, and people are actually picking out some of your quotes and posting them on our Facebook page. So, you know, this might not be the last time we hear from Damon, but we will direct everybody to your Instagram page. Who are you doing? You have an interview tomorrow.
Yes, I'm doing an interview tomorrow. I'm doing Muna Lee. She's the most decorated female athlete in LSU history. She's a track and field. She's a two-time Olympian, two-time world champion, a U.S. champion. She's very gifted too. I mean, that's not the only thing she can do. You know, she plays the instrument. She could have played the women's NBA. Very skillful young lady and very interesting too. And so I look forward to chopping it up with Muna on the whole 9 yards.
Awesome. Well, everybody tune into Damon's Instagram.
Yes, 4 o'clock Instagram. Damon Allen 9 Instagram live at 4 p.m. Eastern time with Muna Lee. Would love for everyone to be on, and we'll go from there.
And if anyone wants to know anything more about Damon, his website is at d9allen.com. Is that right?
That's right, d9allen.com. And my website, and we're still working on it, but at the same time, it's up and running. I'm excited about it. And any kind of information that you want to know, the things that I'm doing, it's on my website.
Awesome. Well, that's we're going to stop the live stream here, everybody. Thanks for joining. That was a plethora of great information. And, you know, we might have you back on again, Damon.
Hey, I would love to anytime. I think the questioning was good. It made it a bit easier and comfortable. And that's the name of the game is not just asking any question, it's asking the right questions.
Well, good. You answered the right questions. So it was very
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. I enjoyed my time too.